So we're going to call the meeting to order. Today's Today's October 6th. It's 6:35 p.m. This is a regular meeting of the Select Board. We are in person and on Zoom, and it's being recorded. First order of business is to review and make any changes to the agenda. We've got one addition that I'm aware of under Public Works, under General Updates. We'll add water line on Amadon Road, the
West Hill Road.
I'm sorry, on West Hill Road. This is a request to put a water line across the road. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda?
No. You said West Hill?
Yes. Yep, so we'll do that under the general updates.
Gotcha.
All right, if there's no other additions or deletions to the agenda, we'll go on to the review and approval of the minutes. So we've got the minutes of December 15th. They should be linked
September
by
15th?
hyperlink.
Oh,
September
look at you.
15th, if anyone needs them. So be looking for a motion to approve the minutes of September 15th as written.
The only thing, my last name was spelled wrong, so if
Oh,
it's, yeah.
sorry about that.
K-A-H-N versus K-H-A-N. And same for Cerritos.
Yep,
K-H-A-N. Yeah.
great. So we have a friendly amendment from Dan. Is there a motion to approve as amended?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Mark. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Leanne. Is there any further discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor of approving the September 15th minutes as amended, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries, and we have approved the minutes of September 15th. Next up is Public Works. We have a bunch of updates here. First item is the wastewater project update. So the big update there is that the final stamped drawings and bid documents were submitted to the state for review on September 29th. So we're hoping to get those back within the next couple weeks so we can get that project out to bid this month and hopefully have numbers back by late November, early December that we can respond to. So that's kind of the next big milestone there. Sarah Buxton, who's our town attorney, might be coming either remotely or in person to our meeting on the 27th to discuss kind of next steps in terms of like legal stuff the board has to do as this progresses as part of the chain of events that has to happen. But the big one here is really getting the bids back, because that's going to tell us whether or not the estimates we have are realistic or not, and where that puts us based on the funding stack we've got. Any questions on the board on the wastewater project? I see one from Tosca, so Tosca, go ahead.
I was just curious, if your easements aren't signed, where does that put, you can still put it out to bid without those?
Yeah, we have, at last count, all but 5, so 95 out of 100. And we can still go to bid without them. The two things that happen are that we either accept a bid without those, we either accept a bid without them and they get rolled back in. I'm not speaking correctly. If the bids come back and we haven't closed on those easements yet, then they just get excluded from the project. We couldn't accept a bid on a property we don't have an easement for.
Got it.
So it's one of those, like,
You have an
depends on the
option.
timeline of what happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That sounds reasonable.
Yep.
I think
Alright.
that's the same thing we did with the water system. There was some people that didn't
Well,
want to
that
sign
was a
off.
different situation
Yeah.
entirely. We
Yeah.
sent a contracted letter to people
Yeah.
to opt out,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
didn't have any real
yeah,
license
yeah, that's
to
right.
bid on.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's my recollection.
Yeah.
Is that it was a little bit different. but-
yeah.
But Sarah should be here on the 27th meeting, or tune into the 27th meeting to provide a more kind of detailed overview of like what's next on that process. And what all that looks like.
Tell me again that date.
The 27th. So just
Okay.
as a reminder, this month, our next meeting is gonna be the 27th. The third Monday, the auditors are gonna be here and they camp out in this room, and rather than making them break everything down and leave because they work late, so we're gonna just push our meeting 1 week. Streetscape project update. This is still basically stalled until we can figure out how much money we need to get through right-of-way, which would get us to the point where we can go and actually apply for the next slugs of work from the state and the feds. So I'm still waiting to get the quote on that back from the engineers. Basically, we can't go out for like the bike and ped grant through V-Trans unless we've cleared right-of-way, so there's a sequence that things have to happen, and in order to go after that next slug of money for construction, we need to get through this last process. So still trying to determine from them what that'll cost, bare bones, to get us to that point. We can apply for more funding. So hoping to have news on that soon. Item C, water system. So I am going to meet with folks from Simon tomorrow morning to go over questions on the contract and clarifications that they sent. If any board members have questions based on the contract that was circulated, let me know. And then I'll report back to the board what I heard for clarifications. I've also sent a copy to Erin to review, just from a billing standpoint, just to make sure she's clear on anything that might have changed since the last contract. So information gathering still for that. Brings us to general updates. So why don't we handle the water line first, Mark?
Okay. On West Hill Road, Michael DeVasco got a hold of me this week. Currently, their water line is across the road from their house, and it runs down the hill above ground and goes through a culvert. And usually in the wintertime, they just leave it running a little bit all the time. But he wants to put the line across the road and bury it. So what they want to do is put a conduit across the road, and then you can bury his water line, so they won't have to keep it running with the drought we have right now. I told them they have to have it done by, next week, because after October 15th, so it has time to settle before winter, and he would be responsible for a load of gravel on top of it. And then Paul Sylvester will be doing the work.
Great.
So the plan is to do it beginning of next week, and then Scott will oversee it.
Okay.
But Paul knows what he's doing, so he's
Great.
supposed to meet with Paul tomorrow morning. So.
Can you post any closures for the road like in advance by a day or two, so people can plan around it?
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
So what day is that?
I'm not sure which
okay.
day.
Yeah.
But when we do
When you find out,
which day.
just let Liz know, and
We'll let
she'll
Liz know,
blast
so we can
out
put it
on the
website.
town updates and the website.
Yeah, I'm not sure they'll have to completely close the road for that, just putting a conduit across.
Okay.
Because they can do it in one section, section at a time, not like a culvert.
Yep. Okay.
So
Well, nice thing about Hill West and West Hill is the
So
worst case
that's-
scenario takes longer, but you can make the loop.
you can go around.
Yeah. Great. Any affirmative action needed there, or just kind of update?
No,
Okay.
just,
So folks are
I mean,
great.
I have an email with I told it, with it in writing, so.
Yep. Great.
The request.
Awesome. Next up is just a recap. So coming out of the summer into the fall, it's like 90 degrees outside, but it's probably going to snow next week with our luck. Mark, you wanted to take a moment and just kind of recap the work that we did this summer, so
Yeah.
folks kind of are up to date on what the road crew did.
So on Reagan Road, we did 45 loads of edging the roadway. We removed the berms on the side of the roadway on Reagan Road. So that was 45 loads. And then the Gibu Road, 49 loads of ditching, cleaning out the ditches. We had 49 loads there, and then we replaced one culvert on Gibu Road. Part of that was when we had that 5 inches of rain, it filled up a few of the ditches and washed out the road, so that's why we did that part. Then Hill West, 114 loads ditching up through the hill. And then Montgomery Heights, 87 loads, and then ditching, and then we changed one culvert on Montgomery Heights. And then they've been on Amadon Road. They did 411 loads, cleaning ditches there, and have replaced 4 culverts. And they've got just a couple more days of ditching up there, and they'll be done with that. And then the sand pile is almost all in, so that's what they've been, that's my.
These are tandem loads, right? Talking about loads, these are tandem
Yeah,
truck
14
loads
yard
of material that was
truck
removed.
loads, yeah. So they moved a lot of material.
Okay.
So it should improve the road. Actually, Amadon Road, they've actually widened it a little bit with cleaning the ditches and everything. So there was berms on the side that they cleaned up, and so it's really nice. Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's a very high number of loads of material.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't do the mental math quickly enough, but
Almost 700.
yeah, almost
loads, I think.
700 loads.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where does it all go?
Oh, there's a few locations where people needed fill and stuff,
Mhm.
so we put it, we tried to find places close by
Yep,
to
sure.
dump it, so it would go a lot faster.
Yep.
So,
Were there any
Yeah.
projects that we tabled for next year, or things that were on the agenda for the summer? We kind of knocked most of it out.
Yeah, we didn't get the grant work done on Amadon Road for this year,
Okay.
so we moved it to next year. There was a couple spots that we got grant money for, so we moved that to next year. We didn't quite get to that. We were trying to get these areas fixed first.
Sure.
So
Awesome.
I got a hold of the grant person, and we could move it till next year, so. Yeah.
That's on, where did you say that was?
Amadon?
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Then the new employee, Cody, started last week, so
Yep.
he's been working out well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're back to 3 people in the garage,
Yeah.
which is great, especially coming into winter for plowing.
Yeah, yeah.
So as we get towards November, December, we'll kind of sit down and try to do the same thing we did last December
Yeah.
and sketch out like a plan for the coming year. So as we drill into that, happy to take input from folks around priorities and things that we're looking at, so we can try to figure out what we can schedule and
Yeah.
get grant funding for and budget for too.
Yep.
Yep.
Of course, price of culverts and everything is a lot higher, and
Yeah.
now with the tariffs, everything else. I think Scott went to get these cutting edges for the trucks,
Yeah.
and normally it was like $3,000, and then it was $8,000 with the tariffs and all the markups, so. But we need to have them, so,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's been an issue with the budgeting too, so.
Yeah, so that's what the next item on the agenda was, just
Yeah.
kind of a quick conversation about what we're seeing, because everything from those cutter edges to the culverts to tires, we're basically seeing all the costs for materials and things go up and up and up, if we can even get them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just kind of flagging that as we come into budget season, that we're gonna have to be really kind of cautious and deliberate about what we can and can't do next year without blowing up the budget.
Yeah.
Great. Any questions for Mark under anything to do with roads, public works, general updates?
Appreciate you. Thanks for all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott wrote it, yeah.
All right, thanks. So we're a little ahead of schedule, but we're going to move to visitors. So the first item on here is the skate park proposal, because Brad had reached out previously, so got him on the agenda. So we're going to start visitors with the skate park conversation. I think there's other folks here for that too. And then we can jump into anything else that we want to discuss on visitors. So Brad, I'll give you the floor for...
So the ramps we have now that we're skating on we're kind of moving wherever we can to set up, and it's working, but we really would like to have the park. My kids are skating and they're ready to skate, a lot of their friends are. It's a long ways to go, there's not, Johnson has a little one, mostly we're going to Burlington and stuff. So I reached out to Charlie and I emailed back and forth with him a little bit. I think the town, on town land would be the best, and I could help the town with that, figuring that process out. But I'm ready to move forward, and I've talked a little bit with the rec center, and we've kind of been going, trying to find the best spot. And if I needed to do it on my property, I could, but I don't think that would be best for, I mean, those end up not getting cared for, and then future generations can't use them. So I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys first before making that decision. If it was something we could figure out.
And I will just note that I did email the slide deck that you sent, so the
Great.
folks should have that. If you
Yeah.
want to refer to anything, we can huddle around computers and look. But yeah, sorry, Suzanne, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I didn't look at the slide deck, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I just was wondering, okay, I'm looking at it now. What about doing, like, why is the option for a concrete skate park not being considered?
It is.
Oh, okay.
Like a slab for beginning, depending on where you put it. So we were talking about, like, if it was at the river walk, you can't have permanent there. So we weren't sure if the actual skate park, it looks like on Google it would be considered permanent.
Yeah.
Where just the slab would. Somewhere else, if it was like up on where the water is for the town and that land that was donated to the town, then we could. But I would prefer to start small with a slab and we have ramps, and we have the ability to build stuff a lot cheaper and easier. And then as we work through the grant process or Tony Hawk or something like that, we can add on to that slab with quarter ramps and bowls and stuff like that as well.
Tony Hawk is the grant foundation, right? Her
Yeah.
foundation with grants.
They help you fundraise, and they sometimes can put money in.
Yeah.
So there's a lady, I think, I want to get it wrong, I always want to say Lindenville. She did through the Tony Hawk there and has a lot of information, and she's been on that board. So I have her contact information to reach out to.
Yeah.
But everything really starts with the space.
Yeah.
So how big an area were you looking for? How big a slab?
Like 2,000 square feet, like I've seen them like 20 by 100, I've seen 50 by 50, depending on the space and how it would lay out to the land best. Typically, once you get into the design, you kind of stake it out and have people come that have done it in the past, you know, like engineers, and kind of see what the space layout would be if you're going with like one of the bigger grants. Starting out small and a lot of do-it-yourself. I mean, for me, whenever I like to get the community involved. I like to have, I mean, not just skating, but like my kids are always building ramps and rails and stuff at my house as it is. And I think it's a good experience, you know, have a barbecue, get everyone together, get there. I know Tosca's son said he would help with rails and stuff in his shop. He said he could even make them where they bolt together and send it in packages so we could get out there with the wrenches and the kids and like have them put it together. Kind of gives them a sense of ownership as well.
So I have one clarifying question, because I had a similar question as you, and I might have been looking at it differently in that I think what you're talking about with concrete is a concrete slab on which like wooden ramps and stuff can get put. The rails would be metal, right? Okay, because one of the places my brain went to was picturing essentially like concrete, I don't know how to describe them, like an empty pool,
Yeah.
right?
Like what Newport has.
Yeah, like that kind of
Interior
stuff.
Features,
So-
they have street features, they have
Yeah.
boxes.
But
Yeah.
the ramps will be
That's
movable,
very
right?
expensive though, so depending
Yeah.
on what we have for space and what we can get for funding and grants and
Okay.
stuff, that could take a while.
Okay, but that's not what we're talking about. Okay.
Right now.
'Cause I think I had a little bit of a disconnect in terms of.
You're
like-
talking about like movable ramps.
Yeah.
You're looking for a home for the ramps that you already have.
Yeah,
Yep.
No, plus the slab to put
To
them
skate
on.
on, so, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Certain things in staying will help them like elongate and with the commitment of people
I
like
mean,
willing to, like me, willing to spend plenty of hours skating and painting
Yep.
and making it happen. I would be really, really excited to be able to take my son as well. Go teach him how to skate now that he's back interested in it, and so am I.
Yep.
And then the other thing, having the slab and having the portable and temporary ramps, then we still can load them up. We could go to schools, we could go to other communities, we could make the awareness by bringing our ramps there and setting them up. So it's kind of really nice to have both, where you can have the slab and the movable, but be able to build on. So Johnson started with a pretty small one, and then they just funded now for a bowl, like a corner bowl that comes off from that side, and then they have the old park out with some street features. So they've been slowly growing it as the time comes, and that allows you to get the kids skating, you know, without a big project.
Yep.
I mean,
Process, a lot of money.
I don't see, I mean, that's movable, so I don't see a problem with that at Riverwalk. I mean, they just, part of the FEMA buyout was just nothing permanent, no permanent structures on that location. But that doesn't sound like a permanent structure.
A slab would be permanent.
Yeah.
The slab is permanent, but
If it
it's,
has
the
a
the issue there was
permanent-
just where the water would flow through there, not
What I
get caught up
Googled, I
in the
think I
building.
sent you what I Googled, and it said that the slab is permanent if it supports a permanent building.
Yeah.
If it's just like a parking lot, walkway, driveway, just the slab to have for recreation without anything permanently mounted to it, then it's not necessarily considered. And then I think you were saying,
Yeah.
like, the biggest thing is like if it floods, water flow, trees and stuff getting hung up on it, a slab, we could grade it to where it wouldn't affect the flow. I think the biggest thing is the flow of the water if it was to
Yeah,
flood.
Yeah.
that's what it was.
So just,
I mean-
just to kind of like
Yeah.
go back to like the 10,000 foot view for a second for folks that might be listening and not quite understand the context. So there's a few places we've talked about. We can talk about all of them. One was Riverwalk Park. The thing that we're talking about now with flooding, so Riverwalk was a FEMA buyout, so the town got money to buy the property. As a condition of that, there's restrictions on what we can do and build there. If we violate those restrictions, we make ourselves ineligible for future FEMA money. So the concern is that we don't want to do anything that would basically put us in the bad graces of FEMA. We still haven't been able to find like the formal document that says like these are the restrictions.
Yeah.
I've tried reaching out to some folks at Rural Development, FEMA, and have heard nothing back from anybody. And now, of course, the government is shut down, so nobody responds to anything. So we can still keep trying to chase that down, but that's kind of the concern. Well, we also don't want to do anything that would exacerbate flooding in general, but we also don't want to do anything that will basically make us ineligible for future FEMA money. So that's kind of the context of this conversation around flooding.
And what about like the rec center where like the volleyball courts are?
Yeah, so we have some folks from the rec center here, so I want to give them a chance to talk about rec center properties, Riverwalk, and the rec center. Before we do real quick, other properties that we've talked about that could work but have limitations or concerns with them. One is the town does have the property up by the water plant. It's a large space. I think the concern there was around what degree of activity or development do we want around the water building given its functions and the need to kind of make sure those functions.
We have a source protection plan, so you have 200 feet around the well source that you can't really, not really supposed to park vehicles or do too much in that area. But that middle section of the field probably could be used.
Yep.
And then you just have to make a driveway in
Yeah.
parking, so they aren't parking by the water plant.
Yep, so that'd be the thing there is the infrastructure in the exclusion zone, yep.
Yeah.
Another spot that came up was the parking lot on Main Street by the Grange Hall and whether or not the back of that could be used for this purpose. And I think
Like the snowshoe Grange parking lot?
Yeah, and so I think the conversation around that was one is we do have limited parking downtown, so we'd have to figure out like is taking away more spaces, what's the pro, what's the con. The other challenge there is that it is a parking lot, and so to have an active recreational activity occurring so close to where cars are moving could be, I don't know.
And snow removal is an issue too.
Yeah, but it sounds like if the ramps leave, because that was one of the things, and again, I was thinking we were gonna do something that was built that was permanent and not movable, so that might, either way, snow removal is another one. But then we've got Riverwalk and the rec center proper,
What
right
about
down here.
our property up here where we bought from Walt?
That's being developed into the wastewater recovery facility
Yeah.
up the hill.
That's up the hill?
Yeah, and
Below.
the area below is where the actual physical structure and 3 buried tanks are gonna be, so there's not really enough room there
that's
to
right.
allow for that and parking, but good question though. So I wanna give Peg and Lisa from the rec center a chance to chime in about kind of conversations you've had, specifically around the properties the rec center does already kind of manage. So if you wanna chime in.
Well, we just had our meeting, and we were walking around, and one thing we talked about was next to the brick building by the pump track, the water building, and obviously would need to have okay with that. I think our biggest concern is wood. That we started with non-recreational objects at the rec center, and we've had nothing but trouble with them. The pirate ship, the vandalism, things breaking, safety. So that, I think, is our biggest concern. And Charlie, I was thinking like you of the in-ground concrete thing. So, but then, you know, Brendan and Marcia and Lisa and I were just talking and looking at ramps and talking about putting them in. Would it be concrete or would it be asphalt, actually? I think. Not that it really matters, but I think it's actually asphalt, isn't it, that we would use, like a
Concrete's
basketball
better.
court?
Concrete's better.
No, concrete.
Concrete?
Yeah, asphalt's a little bumpy.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can ski on it, but it's not really.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
concrete, so, that place looked good to us, up by the brick building. Riverwalk concerns me because as far as jeopardizing anything else that's there, I didn't even realize that it could jeopardize FEMA money. You know, and the town would have to have insurance, not so much for losing the equipment if it's portable and whatever, but for safety and things, so that would draw in a whole lot of other people involved. Where the volleyball net is possible, I sort of love the idea of that's the only space that doesn't have something, and it's open, and not knowing what's gonna happen with the car parking. And also, it's the visuals, like the first thing you see when you come in. So, you know, a flat pad may be different with some purchased ramps, but the wooden ramps have us quite a bit concerned about safety and work needing to be done on them. I love the idea, we just walked back there tonight, you know, and there's a lot going on, soccer, people playing basketball, up by that brick building. I don't know if it's big enough, we were looking at one of the big ramps, and so it seemed big like that, but you're talking about expanding. I mean, there is, you know, maybe a little area to expand, but one of my questions has been, you know, what about out here by where the blueberries and the vegetables are? I know there's supposed to be a helicopter landing pad,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
you know, it's obviously they're not landing in the blueberries, so.
Because if there's cars there, I guess.
Yeah, Doug has always said this is one of our designated emergency, et cetera spots.
And then there a septic concern also? Leach
Septic
fields over there?
septic is kind of closer to here.
Okay.
But yeah, the development of that, Doug always talked about that being the helicopter landing.
Question for you, Peg. Is there more space at the rec center where trees could be taken out that is already flat, like before it gets into the steep pitch? Or is all of the flat area of the rec center already pretty bordered? Like
It's pretty much, we walked behind the brick building.
Okay.
And that could be cleared and could be flattened.
Some of that's wetlands though, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
We want to be
Yeah.
careful about that.
Yeah.
The other thing that a couple people have brought to me, as far as the rec center, I talked to Worthington plays basketball there a lot. And I think Nate Osuki was one of the ones recommending if we could put the basketball court where the volleyball is. That court has been refinished, so they're not 10-foot posts anymore because we went up 2 inches when they refinished it. But if we moved the basketball in the front so that the skateboarding wasn't in the front, we could use that old basketball. It's a pretty small court as it is.
How many square feet is that? Just trying to visualize, like you said 2,000 square feet, and I'm trying to visualize
I
like,
feel like it's a little smaller, but we could also go into that hill and have some,
Is 2,000 square feet just for the slab, or is that like the idea of like the slab and the proposed potential bowl or curb or whatever?
it would, yeah, probably, that's like kind of a minimal, you don't want to get too much smaller than that. So we could start with the slab small, a little bit smaller, and then work in the sides. They might get a little bit bigger than that though, depending on how things progress.
okay. Because yeah, 2,000 square feet's pretty, sorry, I was just trying to do some math really quickly.
It's like you do just.
Is it like the
Yeah,
size?
it's
There's
pretty
a way to
small.
Yeah.
measure it, but I can only do it
It's
from
like
my
40 by
phone.
50.
Yeah.
40 by 50?
But I think wherever you want to put this slab, like whatever location you land on, you should aim that the goal would be to get a bowl or like a larger zone. Like I think this is great. I think a concrete skate park, it's always been, I've been like that. I know you guys do the wooden ramps a lot, but I'm like for longevity, if you're investing money into something, if you're going for grants, it should be like this is something that will solidly be here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would really encourage you to the state of Vermont has funded quite a few public skate parks in the last decade, like at least half a dozen. I was researching this at one point, and I said, I can't do this. But so like, I mean, I know money, like government money is tight for stuff like that right now, but
Yeah.
it might still be out
Yeah,
there.
I want to give you a chance, yeah.
I just wanted to touch on the concerns about the wood and the upkeep of that, and this was in that slide deck, was that Montgomery Smiles as a nonprofit commits to the upkeep of that and purchasing materials for that, so like in agreement with the board, so I just want to make sure that's on the record.
We felt like if you guys were to build a pad, we could help with buying a ramp. And so then it wouldn't be wooden.
because our concern at it, it's a public space, right? So we
Yeah,
always have to
skate
think like commercial grade for stuff.
Yeah.
Or swings, so you can't put a swing set you put in your yard at the rec center, you know what I mean? So you have to be thinking that higher level of safety, that higher level of durability.
Yeah.
So that has to be at a public park like that. And so like we're uncomfortable with the idea of like just something wooden that somebody could, you know, it could break, you could, you know, something could happen, right? It's kind of like the safety piece, but we're thinking like, awesome, like instead sell that or whatever, or use that money and put in a pad and put something that's more permanent, right? We looked up some that, you know, they're not that expensive, but made of a commercial grade material so that you could place it there on the pad, along with maybe other features or whatever, you know, that you could use. It's a start as you like think about maybe fundraising to build something somewhere else or add a wall or do whatever, you know. It's just, it's tough because the rec center is space poor, you know, like we've got a lot crammed into a tiny space. And people are like, but we gotta have the soccer field, but we gotta have the, you know, like
Yeah.
everybody has their things, right? So it's tough, but we were looking back there, it just seemed like maybe a good spot because it like tied in with the pump track and like the trails that go up into the woods, like that might be a natural space to like have some type of features that people are using and, you know, like it's very accessible,
Yeah.
it's very, you know, right in the middle of stuff, easy to get to for people in town. So I think we kind of liked that idea, that space. If it was big enough, we paced it off, I don't know, what did we get, like, the building was 21 feet, right?
Yeah, 25.
So,
Right.
like, it was definitely big enough to put, like, we were looking at your dimensions in the slide deck that were like 8 by 20 something or whatever, and it was definitely much bigger
Yeah,
than that.
that's the size of the mini ramp that we have
That you have.
in town.
That's the one down by the shoe right now?
Yeah.
And,
It
and
doesn't technically need to really, you know, be super solid or.
It could be next to it.
Right.
It can take up different space.
in the basketball court, it looks like it's around 60 by 50 feet. So the basketball court's around 3,000 square feet.
3,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, the old well building there, are there any restrictions on use or development around it?
There might be, because
No
that's our
toilets.
emergency backup source.
Yeah.
We're keeping that as emergency backup source. But yeah.
I think the only thing on that one was no septic was allowed, like you couldn't.
Yeah.
Portalets or something.
Portalets are fine and the bathroom that
Gotcha.
exists at the Grange was fine, but anything else was really, that
Yeah.
was much less
Now that-
restrictive
That's
than
the
the
brick
main
building, right?
source.
Oh, yeah.
That's the wooden one. That's the brick building up
I
there.
don't think there was really.
That's where the trails come
And
out.
that's the pump track.
Well, you still have the well there, so.
You're talking
there
about the
is-
brick building that's kind of behind the pump track, yeah, on the hillside.
Yes,
And then so you guys would be talking about
to the left of it.
like that space.
Yes.
Yeah, like between that
Between
pavilion, the mini
fireman's
pavilion.
barbecue
Yeah.
pit
Okay.
and there's a little drainage in there.
Pump
Yeah.
track come out then?
No, it's there. I mean, that's the other thing, like Suzanne talks about the concrete. I mean, it's possible that you could turn that pump track into a bike and skateboard,
Right.
a pump track together.
And then you could probably go for bike grants to sort of loop it right into each other.
Yeah, you can ride your bike on it.
Just want to look where our property line is there.
Yeah.
Is there,
I mean, up by the water plant, you'd have room for expansion up there too.
Well,
That's
the other-
true.
The Jewett property, like,
Yeah.
You just do it in that middle field. Then you can park over there. You got room for expansion up there too.
It sounds like one of the benefits of the rec center is to have all the recreational activities together and that it's as centrally located as
Yeah.
every other recreation.
It is nice also, like I agree, originally that rec center I thought would be, but it is also nice to kind of have stuff in the village. And, you know, the
Yeah.
kids that, you got, Zachary's been spending a lot of time fishing in the river with Macy's son there, and Porter can ride down, you know, at their
Yeah.
age group. And then
Yeah.
there's like Joe Sherman's daughter, and there's another little girl there that are getting older, you know, and probably, so it's kind of both, you know,
Yeah.
there's good and bad in both ways, but like having it all together is good, but also like kind of having our town where the village.
yes,
Yeah.
something up there.
I just think there's more space
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
Space.
I would
is there a
say,
safe way for, my only concern, sorry, that road coming down South Richard Road,
Around that corner.
around that corner, kids at night, I mean, if there's a way to get kids up there without traveling that road, can they go through the woods? Is there a way to put
Oh,
a
yeah.
crossing that they go, I
The
don't
road
know.
does go down to the other side of the river.
Yeah.
That's my only concern is that if you get kids there at night, I mean, guys fly through that bridge at
Are you
night.
talking about Fuller Bridge?
Yeah.
Fuller Bridge Road, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
if that would be, I'm just
Yeah.
concerned about kids getting there.
Yeah.
I think so
Safely.
Mark, you're talking about maybe up in the northern meadow segment, so like
Well,
this
there's
is,
3 different sections.
yeah, there's like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about kind of going up to that top section? 'Cause that-
No, I was thinking it's more the middle
The
section.
middle one, okay.
Because there's better access to that one.
Yeah, because we probably need to put in a new access point for this.
Well, you could almost put the access point coming from the water plant side, so you wouldn't have to have the driveway coming out in the middle of the hill.
Okay,
And then put a culvert across, and then they could come in, still come in the water plant driveway, but just not park, you know. Then there's like a whole,
With the blinking lights.
there's a whole like old
Helium there.
house bed or house foundation that
in
could
there?
be pushed
Okay.
in and cleaned up. I mean, that would
I
help
wanna go
look
back
better.
to the idea of like that river walk, go back to that discussion. So does the base that the pump, like the half pipe type thing is on even have to be concrete? Can it be gravel? Like, or it has
No.
to be something solid? Yes?
For like a half foot.
For like a-
Yeah. But
You
other
want-
than that, it would be like, probably your other stuff would definitely want to be.
So I think the challenge is that the half pipe on its own is fine, but if
Right.
we're using all the elements to go from one to the other, you want everything to be usable as opposed to get off your skateboard, walk to a rail, or like, you need those transitionary spaces.
Right.
Yeah. All it needs to be kind of
And are we
concrete.
saying, like, Brad, is what you said, like, concrete as a slab without a building on it is not considered permanent? So would it work to put some
But then if
kind of
you-
a slab?
I would think it
I
would
would
be,
think it would be fine, yeah.
Yeah,
Because,
the
I mean-
concern is like, we just want to get something in writing from FEMA that says you can do that before we do it. Because we don't want to do it and have them be like, we were looking at Google Earth, guys, and like, what are you doing?
Especially if you expand and you have like a bowl or.
I don't
We
see.
wouldn't be able to get a grant from like Tony Hawk or anything like that. 'cause
Well, it might affect grants
Oh.
and
Oh,
funding
yeah.
too, if it's on a, if it has restrictions.
Yeah.
Being in a
Certain
floodplain.
programs might not be like, well, we do go put out money, but it has to be a certain.
Yeah.
Well, it's true, because it could get washed out. It could be, you know.
Yeah. I w-
Concrete park.
I think it's also maybe worth noting a little bit that Riverwalk, particularly in the evening hours, has had some trouble with people loitering or, maybe doing things they shouldn't be doing there. And not to stigmatize skate parks, but like if you have a skate park there, which I think is a wonderful asset for communities, you might also attract or draw in that particular location just because they're already coming to that parking lot.
There's
Some
There's a lot
unwanted.
of studies that have been done that actually
Wait, what?
disprove that. Whether, there's a bunch of studies that have been done by.
I'm not saying skateboarders being the riffraff.
No,
I'm just
because
saying, I hate that word.
people
Can't believe I
that
just
are-
used it.
No, I understand. If people are using it, it becomes a more active area and that kind of pushes the people who are already there away.
I guess that's a
Yes,
good
they're
point.
using it as
Right.
it's like a dead zone, right?
And I think you had links right on the, what you emailed them, had
Yeah.
links.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
like the sources at the end of it.
Okay.
So, Peg, is it fair to say that the rec committee, like, you guys would be open to seeing what this could look like in almost collaboration if you guys have access to funding and if your boxes get checked on whether it's at the rec center or Riverwalk, that there is sort of a collaborative opportunity to make sure it's done right, like commercially, like all the liabilities covered, and like with kind of collaboration in mind? Is that?
I think collaboration is good. Like one thing that I would like to see is, so, a project manager, or who's gonna do the work, who's gonna write the grants, who's gonna manage the project, and then aftercare. I think, you know, we've learned from our experiences. The fireman's barbecue pit is a fireman's barbecue pit until it needs a roof, and then it's a rec center. And then it goes back to become a fireman's barbecue pit again. So, you know, I would want all of that in some sort of writing about who's the group who's responsible if somebody does call at 1 o'clock at night because there's people there. You know, who's gonna run the project? Obviously, working with the rec center, but I don't see it as the rec center building it.
Yeah.
I definitely see us as being involved in fundraising, being able to produce some money, but it mostly have to be fundraised. I mean, our budget is 22,000 from the, you know, we did some grants and we had a good bequeathment, but pretty much
Sure.
gone.
Yeah.
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 One of the things that seems to have cleared up tonight is that it can be iterative. It's not, we weren't, it doesn't sound like the expectation was like one massive concrete park, like from Tony Hawk Pro Skater the game, right? Like we have ramps already, and it's sort of the first step might be to have a home for them that's usable. And if the interest is there, I know that I checked out the barbecue, what you guys did, like that turned into the block party. And that was awesome. There were like a lot of kids from my kids' age and up, and it just was a like very cool vibe.
Talk about the cool vibe, yeah.
His taste in music is great. But, and I think that's where if the first step is just concrete and you guys have the equipment, and then there's a way to put a plan in place for the management of it, it seems like there are low-cost steps to see if this is a serious long-term thing where 10 years from now we have concrete elements as opposed to just the poured slab.
But see, that's the thing, we're not real fond of all the wooden pieces.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, it sounds like
Which are
material.
really common, they have companies specific for those ramps, skate light and
Yeah.
stuff, so that they're fully safe and
Yeah.
weather protected and all of that as well.
The knowledge base gave
You really should stop that. No more phone for you.
In the continuing conversation, would there be something where the rec board would be okay with, you know, for a certain amount of time, there being wooden features there as we, you know, fundraise and get things together?
Well, like we said, if you got the concrete, we could get a ramp.
Right, we can't say
Yeah.
right now, unfortunately, at Smiles what we would commit our fundraising to, but that's only because it has to be a discussion we have post some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like there's plenty of opportunities once you have the space. I've been looking around a lot.
Yeah.
The ones that have been built, and I think there's a lot of available funding and things to help.
Could you guys put together like a perspective, like a price list of all the elements you already have, if these were to be bought brand new, like the commercial quality, not the wooden ones, just to be able to then look at that and be, all right, if we were to just replace what you already have with the brand new, all that stuff, what would that cost? Like that could be just a starting point to understand the different elements, the cost of those elements, and then see how to like go from there. Would that be helpful for the rec board to be able
Did you
to?
say you saw some ramps and had some prices already?
Yeah, Marcia had looked up.
Quickly, Marcia was like kind of Googling as we were doing the meeting, and she was just looking up like, you know, some ideas, but we don't know, we aren't the ones that know what is wanted, you know what I mean? We were just going by the dimensions, you know, so it
Yeah.
was
And
like
Brandon knew some of the
3
names.
feet by 8 feet by 22 feet, or something like that, she looked up. We were like, that sounds about what they sent us in the slideshow, but it was made out of, I don't know what the material was, but it was like a commercial grade, like glass, like for,
You sell ski, I mean,
or
there's a
whatever
bunch
it
of
is, you
things
know,
out there now.
I've never
Metal
priced them.
paint,
Right,
feel like
we've
they
got
all
some metal,
use-
we have a metal.
Like
Okay.
a lot of the big
Can we,
DIY
we're starting to talk over everybody, so if we can bring it back to, the center. I also wanna just be cognizant of time too. I don't wanna like curtail this, but I also wanna make sure that, one question for the rec board. If, say that, Fuller Bridge Road was the site that worked out the best because of the space, because of the access, is the rec board okay with or interested in taking over that spot as another property in the portfolio of the rec board? Or would the rec board in that case kind of say, that's great guys, but this is now not the rec board, this is completely a different entity? And you don't have to answer that right now. That's one question I've got is like, because it seems like at Riverwalk and the rec center, it's a partnership between Montgomery Smiles and the board and the rec board, as opposed to if we went up to a new property. So that's one question that I maybe want the board to consider is like, if we did it up there, like, love it, but it's not us, right? Because there's the management of who's going to be mowing, who's going to be doing the parking, who's doing trash removal, maintenance, that kind of stuff. So it'd be great to get the rec board's kind of position on that as we consider that property. It sounds like with the rec center property, the main question is thinking about next to the building, the pump track, is there actually enough space to make that work in the long term? To Suzanne's point, we want to build something that can get us where we want to go all the way and not just do like half measures that we're then boxed into.
Yeah.
So it might be a question of getting out on site and looking at like, is there enough room here to really do what we want to do? And we can also look behind, looking at the map again, the wetlands thing I was thinking of might not be as big an issue. There's a little drainage back there, but we might be able to kind of like stream alt that. Because the property line is pretty far back, so potentially there is room to expand back into there. So if we can kind of get an idea of like on the ground, pinning out like how big is the area, where do we have to go, that might be a next step there. And then I can continue to try to hound FEMA to get like an affirmative answer on Riverwalk, because that seems to be the big holdup with that, is that like we just don't know the answer to that question.
Another thought then, if you're talking about that the property line goes back, I mean, we just walked back there, it wasn't as enticing, but it's behind the soccer goal back there. I mean, that could be possibly made bigger and flattened out if you're looking at a bigger need
Gotcha.
than by the brick building, if that fits into not, I mean, obviously there's little drainage back there, but I would think it's not wetland, and I would think it could be cleared and flattened.
Yeah.
If
Yeah, the wetlands
more
thing
space
is
is needed.
the wetlands thing is one of those ones that like it's a public project. We'd have to get a wetlands determination, and even if something doesn't look like a wetland, all it takes is for a wetlands ecologist to come out and be like, that's a sensitive fern, this is a
I realized as
wetland.
soon as I said it, that was a silly thing to say.
You know what I mean? Well, I remember
Yeah.
like we just went through this back and forth like for 4 months, where the Army Corps of Engineers determined that the drainage ditch in front of the rec center is a jurisdictional wetland. So like you never know what they're going
I
to
mean, with
say.
this drought, now is the season to get a determination. I think.
Yeah. So okay, so if sounds like kind of next steps, continue to get an answer out of FEMA on Riverwalk. Do a little bit more on the ground looking together in terms of space that we're talking about behind the soccer goals, by the pump track, see expansion. We can take a look in the woods and see what it looks like there. And then I guess with the Jewett property, the next steps on that, I think my question would be, since there's nothing there to begin with, like, is it feasible budget-wise in terms of getting the access, getting the driveway, putting in the parking, putting in the slab? Or is it like, that's just too expensive a proposition that it's no longer viable?
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of question there. Are there any other kind of like takeaways or action items we want to follow up on? If not, we can try to coordinate by email to schedule a time to meet at the rec center to go look at some of these spacing things, maybe take some flagging and like some tape and like mark it out. That sound good? Okay. Anything else on this topic tonight while we're on it?
Thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
Is Kim on for the skate park discussion? Yeah, so Kim, I want to give you a chance just to, do you want to hop in?
Who's that?
Kim Beatty.
And Kim Beatty. I've been listening in, but yeah, no, I agree with all those next steps and everything that was discussed. So thanks for considering it. We appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Kim.
Is she the only one on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Mary is not with us this evening.
I think it's something the town's interested in
Yeah.
having, it's just to
Just a
find
case
a
of figuring
location
out the
for
right
it.
spot with all the things, but yeah, so I
Yeah.
appreciate all your work kind of trying to move this
Yeah.
forward and get it to that realization point. And thank the rec board for entertaining all this and thinking about it. I
Yeah.
also will talk to our insurance company about some of this stuff. I don't know if they consider skate parks separate from what we already are doing, but like, just to check that box of like, we talked to our insurance company, I will also contact the
I would
LCT.
argue that the rec center playground equipment that's iron is just as dangerous.
I assume so, but you never know with,
Sorry.
you know.
It's gotta be
so-
covered.
All right, cool. Well, sounds like we've got some directions to go in, some next steps, so we'll keep the ball moving.
Yep, let me know.
Awesome.
very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks everybody for coming out.
Thank you.
Sorry, Roberta. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
Totally fine.
Visitors, the room is yours now.
everybody.
Just the same concerns, and like when Mark said, 114 loads of dirt came out of the ditches in that little park, just up from your place. I think up the hill and then down the hill a little ways, that's a lot of dirt, and where is all that coming from? Like, is it being graded off the road, is it being washed in the ditches? And I don't think that's gonna go away, it's gonna get filled up again. It'll take about maybe 10 more years or whatever.
Well,
but is there a
it was,
way
I
we
mean, it's
can-
been filling up quite a few years, yeah.
Right, yeah, so is
I
there a
mean,
way to, so that we can not have all the dirt go in the ditches, maybe grade it differently, I don't know. And my other
Well,
thing was
yeah.
just the vegetation plan,
Yep, vegetation
moving forward,
management.
I really think that we should be doing a road or two a year, cleaning out the vegetation in the ditches. You know, like the trees, the little trees that are growing up, like, they're all sprouting up. I mean,
Yeah,
where everything's cleaned
Yeah.
out, the ditches that are cleaned out are good, but, you know, because nothing's grown there since the ditches, but all the other ditches that were just like a few years ago, there's like all kinds of trees growing up in there, and then they're gonna plow, and there's gonna, you know, there's not gonna be any place for that to melt and go down the ditches, with all the trees, so that's,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and that's for all roads, you know,
Right.
not just I just noticed our road, cause I
Yeah.
drive up it every day.
yeah,
but I mean, we did quite a bit of ditching up that road last year too, at the
Yeah, at
upper
the
end.
top of the road,
Then we
yeah,
changed
more
that big
towards the
culvert
top.
down in the hill, and, yeah.
And then, as far
I
as
mean-
culverts, I think we've probably replaced every culvert that we've had at one point. So I
No,
don't think
there's-
there'd be too many more culverts.
On that road?
No, like in general.
No,
because
no,
you
there's
guys-
still quite a few more.
There's still quite a few,
Oh,
because
yeah.
we replaced a lot over the last few years.
We
A lot
have,
of
but there's
culverts.
still, they weren't getting replaced before, so
Do
it's,
they
yeah.
all have to be replaced?
Well.
I think it's a case of, at this point, I think we're trying to just fix the ones that are
Yeah.
failing.
Yeah,
So-
they're failing.
Yeah,
Some lower quality culverts were put in, so some of those are failing, so
Yeah.
that's why, yeah.
but when we do the kind of
Yeah.
the planning again, thinking about being back up to full capacity, which we haven't really been this summer, for most of the summer.
Yeah.
We can think about trying to prioritize, to your point, with the vegetation work, because I think the difference would be like, some of the ditches you're describing, it's like, it's been cleaned out recently, it's just kind of starting veg management. Then there's ditches where like the vegetation management is the excavator going like that, you know?
Well,
So,
no, but I think that's
Yeah.
happening because it's not
yeah, so,
maintained on a regular basis. Now that those ditches are clean, I would hope that every year you would go and chop down any little trees that are growing in there,
Yeah.
so they don't become a huge
yeah,
tree. Like, that's what's happening on the rest of the road. Those ditches, I don't know, in the last probably 10 years were done, but now all these trees are growing in. And at one time, we had this big machine that came in and just chopped them and left spears in the ditches. Literally, if somebody got in an accident.
yeah,
they
that's the
would've-
flail mower.
Oh,
that-
I
Yeah, yeah.
remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It was
I
like,
remember that.
and it looked
Yes,
terrible,
it
and
did.
if somebody went off the road, they would have got
Yeah.
stabbed.
Yeah.
Like, in any
Yeah.
place. It was,
Yeah.
so that's what I don't want happened again. And then there's trees that there's broken branches hanging over the road that they're gonna come down probably this winter. It'd be nice to have to just trim down all that stuff so it doesn't fall in the road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then it's gonna get plowed and left there. And just all the dead trees that are left in the ditches are just left there. It'd be nice if we could rent the Vermont electric machine to just go do its thing like it did in spots up the road. Cause
Yeah.
they just, it was like a big chipper, it's like this huge jaw. It went
were
through
they
it,
using
cleaned
were they using a mulching head? I thought they were cutting it by hand and feeding it into
No,
a,
it was,
thought they-
it was some mulching machine, it was like, cause I saw it, what the heck is that? And it was just like eating the
Yeah.
trees and mulching them as it was like a lawnmower chipper all in
Huh.
one.
was it
Yeah.
mulching it into something or just on site?
On site.
Yeah, so we could,
Yeah.
I mean, we can look into like getting somebody to come with a grinding head or a mulching head.
Because you could just drive along the
Yeah.
whole thing,
Yeah.
clean it out,
The,
and then shot, and then you wouldn't have to dig out the ditches because you'd be mulching it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea. We have to look at like also priority cost, all that kind of stuff. The one, because when I thought about that last time, my one concern was with the mulching head. When you're mulching it, you're essentially just chipping it right down on site. I didn't know if doing that would essentially add material to the ditches, just smaller.
It
You know what I
didn't-
mean?
It's like, it's just, it was not like
Hey, Chip.
fine, but it's like chipped down to just wood, you
Yeah.
know? And it, Actually, it looks pretty good. I go,
Yeah.
that looks good. I wish we could do the whole road like that.
Right.
Yeah, well, we can certainly look
I mean, drive
into,
further up the road and see it,
I
and
think
it looks really good. They follow the power lines too, and they do the same thing. Wherever there was a power line, they went up and mulched around the power line,
yeah.
and they just kind of went through the ditch and up in there, and
That was Vermont Electric.
That would be nice.
Well,
I think it was Vermont.
It was a contractor probably.
Right,
But there's people around,
Yeah.
like Dan Pepin over the hill has one. There's a guy in St. Albans that's got
I
one.
just saw it go by me one night, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what is that? And it was just like,
Well, we can at a minimum, we can get some estimates around hourly rates and like how much you could do in a day, and just try to like play with that in the budget and see.
Yeah,
I think they could do a
That would be
lot,
smart,
because that
I
machine
think.
was pretty fast. It was like powerful, and it just kind of went through the ditch, and I'm like, whoa, and it just had a whole area cleared out in a matter of like
Yeah.
a couple of minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 so.
Yeah, we use them a lot in my work for like habitat work where you need to basically grind down something to promote rough grouse habitat or something,
Yeah.
where it's
So
going to
everything
take
is just-
forever.
I mean, I like the tunnel you kind of drive
Right.
through, but I also see that everything's just getting closer and
Yeah.
closer, and there's not gonna be room for snow or water to go off,
right.
especially in the spring.
Yep.
And there's some areas that probably could have some trees cut down to let the sun in, especially near the cold springs where it gets really hot.
Yep.
Yep.
right up
Yeah.
the road.
Well,
Hopefully
we'll-
we'll have another spring like last year.
Yes.
That's
God,
what I'm praying
fingers
for.
crossed. Yeah.
I didn't have to ride there.
All right. Cool. Well, yeah. I mean, as we get into this next planning and stuff and everything, we'll
Yeah.
try to get estimates and work them in. Don't forget your keys.
I've done that before.
Well, you wouldn't have gotten very far, so. All right.
Roberta.
Bye, Roberta.
All right, that takes us through visitors. No one else is on Zoom. Old business, item A. So on this is kind of a placeholder, but on the 27th, the engineer and the consultant are going to join the board to talk about this project. Liz did email out the quote for the vault, if folks want to take a look at that beforehand. So no action or really discussion tonight, other than just flagging this. There's material in your inbox that you can check out.
I didn't
and-
see the quote, I saw.
Is it from Liz?
List of questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. The quote is in the yellow folder. The questions are what she emailed. So
Yeah.
that- yep.
You may email the list of questions.
So if you want to check out the quote, it's in the folder for the vault. But yeah, so they'll be here at the next meeting to talk about the project and try to kind of get things back onto like an actual track of what needs to happen when, and also refining a lot of the estimates we talked about.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the 27th. We'll hold that space. New business. TD Bank wants to
So
extend
in that
their.
yellow, is that, those estimates you were talking about the other night, are those in there, are those?
No, those aren't in there. This is just for the vault.
Oh, okay.
Those estimates were kind of like, I forget his name, the guy that.
Michael.
Michael. Those
Yeah.
are kind of like Michael's very rough, like, if you want numbers to think about, here are numbers to think about, but they're very much subject to change, so.
Yeah,
Yeah. So this is just the vault quote, which is just the vault. And you're looking at about $129,000, $126,000.
For the vault.
Yep.
Which is quite a bit under what we had anticipated, right? We were talking upwards of 200,000?
I think we authorized at town meeting, not this last one, but the one before.
yeah, we had
An
like
expenditure
200,000.
for like 200,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is under that estimate.
Well, that can help pay for the culverts and the
that's-
materials costs going up, right?
There you go. So that's in here, folks want to check it out. But anyway, so we'll dig into that more at the next meeting.
Yeah,
The new business, TD Bank wants to extend their lease a year. At this point, given where we're at with like the remainder of the work around the streetscape project and that lot being created, I don't see a risk of extending for a year.
Yeah. I would say yes.
So, anybody have an issue or a reason why we wouldn't extend it?
yeah, I'd
Keep
like,
tapping it.
look at tearing that building down next year.
I
mean,
would
think-
love to
I
do
think they
that.
just, I think it cost them almost 30,000 to tear the rectory down.
Yeah.
up
What,
there.
30,000 to
Yeah.
rip that down?
Yeah, but that was a big building.
Yeah.
I mean, that was-
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not gonna tear it down until we know kind of like that there's a next step.
Well, yeah.
Or what we're gonna do. So at this point, I think it's pretty safe to assume that the building will be there for another year. So yeah, so is there, I mean, so we entertain a motion to extend TD Bank's lease for a year.
I would make that motion.
All right, thanks, Leanne. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Daniel.
And then they're interested in it, right?
Yeah, they reached out specifically and said, hey, we want to, this is why it's on the agenda, because they reached out and they said, hey, we want to extend the lease. We were talking about you guys with alternatives, but where are you at, so.
A lot of business goes through that ATM.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yep. Yeah, it's really the only, like, main focal public ATM. I mean, there's one, there used to be, well, there was one in Sylvester's. I don't know if it ever works. The Snowshoe, I think, still has one.
I don't know.
And then Mary Jane
Yeah.
Mountain has one. But yeah, it's really the only kind of, like, commercial ATM space in
Yeah.
town.
Right.
It's 24/7 as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So we have a motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of extending TD Bank's lease for another year, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries, and we will notify TD Bank. We're gonna carry the Hartful Kitchens lease forward. We'll table it. Still haven't had a chance to sit down with Tosca in detail and hammer out the specifics here. They're gonna be very minor things, but wanna make sure they're all right. And again, that
Okay.
lease runs through November
That's-
30th, so we got plenty of time.
Oh, November 3rd, okay.
Yep. October meeting schedule, we already talked about this,
27th.
but we're gonna meet the 27th on the fourth Monday instead of the third Monday. So plan accordingly. Tobacco liquor licenses. The only thing we have tonight is Stewart Shops. This is a second-class retail license and tobacco endorsement, which always sounds weird because it sounds like we're endorsing tobacco.
Yes, yes,
But I think this is just what they need in order to sell tobacco products.
yeah.
So we'd be looking for a second-class retail license and tobacco endorsement for Stewart's Shops, formerly The Jolly. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Daniel. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Leanne. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye, raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, and we have approved the license. We have no fleet permits, and that brings us through the end of our agenda. So if there's something else, then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Great, thanks, Suzanne. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Leanne. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, and we stand in adjournment at 7:37 PM.